Almost. There it is.
What up, ladies and gents? Happy Friday.
There it is. Happy Friday. All right, business pros. Before we jump into the show, just a quick reminder to please subscribe on whichever platform it is that you're catching us on today. Give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe, and drop a review and help other like-minded business owners find value from our guests as we rise up in the podcast rankings. We will sincerely appreciate it, and if you want to be a guest on the show, we'd love to have you on and learn from you. Go to www.businessbros.biz/podcast guest and schedule your time slot, and don't forget to follow us on all of our social medias at Business Bros Pod. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are so excited and honored to bring another incredible guest to the Business Bros Pod. If you are stuck in a rut and can't seem to stop yourself from repeating that habit that you hate, you will want to tune in today. Our guest is here to talk about the uncommon content that she's created around helping people defeat the loser inside and become the winners they know they can be. She has worked in behavior change for nearly a decade and offers customized structure and support to systematically shift beliefs towards greater empowerment, individuality, and peace. If you're looking to transform your internal and external habits, you will want to tune in today to learn how our guest helps her clients with belief and identity transformations that can revolutionize your life. Coming to the pod from across the coast and joining us today from habitbook.com, we can't be more excited to welcome to the show, Shaylee Edwards!
Boom. Intro time.
Shut up and sit down.
The Business Bros Podcast was created for you. Learn from the business professionals who come to share their stories. Find out what's working in business, on social media, what's hot and what's not, straight from the mouths of successful entrepreneurs out there doing the real work. And now, welcome to another episode of
Business Bros.
Ah, there it is.
Ready to rock and roll. Ladies and gents, happy Friday. I am super pumped to get this show on the road. Before we get started, I always commend everybody who's putting out content on a regular basis. So I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Rob. He's been giving us some great shout outs. Plus, he was wearing a Business Bros shirt today. So that totally gives you a plug. So I'm going to drop his plug. Check out his magazine, Shift Magazine. Here we go. Boom. Shiftbydesign.com. Check out Dr. Rob Garcia on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere else. All right, Shaylee, I'm ready to get to know you. Tell me about Habit Book. What's that all about?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I love what you're doing. I think it's so great to hear from other entrepreneurs and like their wins and just like see their personality and like what works for them. So I really appreciate what you're doing and for having me on today. Super excited. And also great energy. I don't know. Yeah,
we have fun. We have fun.
It's so good. Okay, so Habit Book actually is one of those things that just like kept tumbling, and I think like finally stuck a landing. And by that I mean what it was designed to do has changed over time. So I actually started in financial management consulting, and then went into fitness and nutrition coaching, and then just got like fucking fascinated with behavior change. And so I started to merge those two fields together and use data to help people rewrite limiting identity and belief, limiting identity ideas and beliefs at a conscious and subconscious level. And very recently, it's kind of like summarized into this like even smaller kind of like tweak that a person can do to unlock their best self. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Unlocking your best self. I mean, so I'm gonna share a little story with you. I've been having a phenomenal week, and then yesterday I got what I'm deeming real estate slapped. So I have a couple deals in the works, and each and every one of them came up with a problem on the same day. And then I got a call saying mom fell down and broke her knee all at the same time, all within an hour of each other. Like they all came in, and I had that mind I guess block, or at the same time I'm like self-loathing, and I'm like, maybe I'm not cut out to do this anymore, or well, I can't believe this is happening to me, you know, kind of giving myself that guilt trip. And then somewhere along the way, everything kicks in all of a sudden. Like every book I've read, every podcast I've listened to, every interview I've done, all the people who kind of get up off the floor, dust themselves off and keep going, that all triggered at the same time to change my mindset to like, you know what? The whole reason why you get paid what you get paid, and the whole reason why you do what you do, is because you can solve problems. These are the problems that pop up, and everybody else is normally quitting when they come across these things. That's not you. You keep going. And it kind of shifted, and then I started looking for solutions, and things are working their way out of those negative sides. I mean, unfortunately, mom's in a cast, but at least it's not surgery. But
Good news.
But yeah, good news. But you know, that's not what everybody goes through. Not everybody has that easy little quick, you know, shift. How are you helping people kind of make that little transition to get their behavior, their mindset in the right spot?
Well, actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to use a diagram.
I love diagrams.
All right. So this, maybe somebody else has done this, as far as I know, like this is sort of exclusive to the habitbook.com world, but imagine that this is a timeline. So we've got past to future, and then let this line represent space. And so we have like what other people are doing and what other people are thinking, and then dead center is here and now, which is really like the only place we can do anything about anything. And so what I notice is a lot of those thoughts that get in the way between entrepreneurs or people, but like between them and what they want to do, are out here in time and space. And so it's just kind of noticing that when you're here, what you're trying to do is actually make here better later, but you can only do that through here. And I think what you're describing is being able to hold your vision in kind of a storm, which is also sort of synonymous with me, or to me, for living in the here and now, where it's like, hey, I've got this thing inside me. It's got to get out. Like, I'm never going to quit. And that's what makes me feel good. It's being willing to keep showing up and trying to bring this thing into reality. It's not these other things. And they happen, and it's okay. And they usually make us greater or stronger or more compassionate or aware. But really, it's just as simple as kind of training yourself to recognize that this is just like mirage stuff, and drop back in your center.
I like that. You know, and I've heard this kind of in two ways. On the one side, it's like you need to keep your vision before you, right? Where you're going and who you want to be is super valuable. I always used to ask myself the question, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And I could never really define that until I switched the question from who am I to who do I want to become? And now that was a different MO, right? Now all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm the type of person who's successful. I'm the type of person who's a powerful speaker. I'm the type of person who's a motivator. Now it's like, I may not be there right now, but I'm progressing every day to become that person. And I'm working towards that on a regular basis.
I'm your huckleberry.
Right. And the funny thing about that conversation, I had a very similar conversation with my 8-year-old. He's 10 now, with my 10-year-old son. And we were having this conversation about the present and being in the moment. Right. And he made a profound point that later in that day, somebody in a podcast episode made the same point, but he said, you really can't live in the moment, because the moment you realize that you're in the moment, and now is the past. Right. And so what you were saying is, you know, we can't fix the past. We can only work on what we have right now. And what we're really working on, in my point of view, what we are right now is who we want to be as an individual in the future. How does that kind of parallel with what you're describing? Does that make any sense? Or am I off at all?
Well, that's awesome. You've got like a young Buddha.
Right?
The third host.
He's a pretty smart kid.
He's deep. Yeah, he's deep.
Actually, so I think it's interesting when we look at events in time, even relative to our own development, it can still kind of create a gap for feeling good, where it's like, hey, I have this idea of what I should be. I have this reality, wink, wink, of what I am. And this gap is wrong. Like, I should be that. And so I think it seems like states of being or states of identity allow for different kinds of expression. And like the more highly we identify, or the more like the better we think about ourselves, like the more beautiful the things we are, or the things that we create are. And so it's almost like kind of assuming the end state and acting from that place and allowing yourself to be like, even if you can't see like, oh, I just like strutted into that room as like the most confident person ever, recognizing like you're still holding the seed, and it's just kind of like the lines of the definition that are holding you apart from the experience of it. So, or just like actually the awareness or the thought of it. So it's sort of saying like, yeah, I might not have like owned it, but like I feel that growing within me. And so you can still kind of identify as that end goal without it being like the full blown thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the people who surround us, because it's one thing for us to get into that mindset and kind of shift things and have a different perspective. But we live in a reality where it's not just us. We live in a reality where we're surrounded with friends, we're surrounded with family, we're surrounded with coworkers, we're surrounded with, especially now, other influencers and things that we see online. How can I take all that information and kind of funnel it so that it's focusing where I want to be, so that I'm channeling the good stuff that I have around me and the support that I have around me, and not falling prey to all the negativity that's also out there that can drag me in a different direction?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially now. And what I found to be helpful is just recognizing that what you want to do ultimately is to feel good. And that's why you would be focused on a condition externally that was wrong anyhow, because you would ultimately want to change it or keep it at least in your radar so that it could someday be changed. So no, going, you're kind of have peripheral vision, but still kind of concentrate or drill in on a thought or a focal point that feels good, which is usually like, again, and like the vision, like, or if that doesn't feel accessible, maybe it's like how soft your sweatshirt is, or like how pretty that tree bark is.
I like that. It's almost like a distraction, right? And James and I would talk about this on a regular basis. I'm a big action taker to get my mind in the right spot. James is a big set your mind right before he takes action person. He also wears his heart on his sleeve, right? Literally has a birthmark in the shape of a heart on his arm. And so there's times in the day when he would be at the office, things would stress him out, and he'd take a time out, like literally like a little kid almost, right? Take a time out, just go, our office was in Coronado right by the beach, go sit on the rocks right there and just get back in the zone, realign himself, and then come back fully charged. Whereas me, for me, I was like, I'm just self-loathing for a little bit. All right, that's it. I'm done having a little pity party. Let's go do something about this particular action. Which one is a better balance? And when you're talking about developing habits, which one should we go to?
Well, I think you already nailed it in allowing for both of you to have your own preference, like your own home spot. I think we are all different, even though we're kind of the same, and it's really ultimately like what works. So I call that the helpful doctrine, and it's like, yo, whatever does it for you, like that's fine. Like that's probably the best thing then.
I want to go a little deep into your backstory, a little bit of your history. What were some of the biggest struggles that got you to the point where you are today?
Oh God.
Let's dig up some of that drama. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I think like you don't get in a space like mine without having like your own difficulties. And so I started out with just like really difficult home situation. I lost my sister when I was 25 to suicide, and that kind of like kicked off everything. And I was like, all right, I'm going for it. Like I'm gonna live the dream. I got to do this. And so like that series of events had definitely put me in some places where my awareness wasn't as great as it could or should be. And so my decision making relative to those weren't so great. And so it really just took some time for me to come to terms with my own starting place and like my own story. And I find that if you can accept who you are, even with everything, and because of all that, and blah, 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 it gives you such a strong foundation that it doesn't really matter. Like you can it's so much easier to keep looking forward because there's nothing else for you to really like manage.
And it really is about, I'm sorry, it really is about starting with where you are, right? I was having a conversation with one of our previous guests, Michael Johnson. He's got a podcast as well. His is all about mindset. And he was asking me, when I have my emotional lows, when I get into my emotional lows, how do I climb out of that? And, I was telling him, I just start with where I am. I know that if I'm feeling badly about my business, for example, if I'm not feeling great about it, I can't just say I'm the best CEO there is. I'm, the top dog. I'm the best in the world, because I don't believe that in that moment. And so I need to get myself to, I need to remind myself of things that I believe. I'm pretty good at business things. I have built a business over the past 7 years that has, created a few jobs and provides me with an income. So I guess I'm doing okay. And, just kind of starting with the things that I know, that I believe, that are real to me, and building that momentum. When I was looking at your chart there, I kind of saw a little bit of that, and the things that you were saying kind of was going into that. It's really that in the moment, what we believe, and how do we carry that forward? How do we, get from this, this is where we are here and now, but we have all of these visions, all of these goals, all of these aspirations. How do we get from where we are to where we want to be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you touched on a huge point, like acceptance, which is synonymous with surrender, and a lot of the popular conversations right now is
I surrender to your will.
usually it takes getting to some point like that where you're like, okay, fine. Like nothing else is working.
Well, I mean, it could.
It's worse. It's so much worse.
It could be worse.
Yeah. I call that. Oh, sorry.
No, I was please continue.
I call that kind of like meta levels of acceptance. So we've got like events on the ground. So this is like stuff that happens. And then we have a response to that, mental or emotional. And then depending on how practiced we are with like our internal development, we might have a response about the response. And then we might have a response about the response. So it's like, oh, I feel bad about not getting this deal. And then it's like, but I shouldn't feel bad. And so there's like now this extra layer of emotion on top of the thing that if you allow for it to be without fighting it, it goes so much faster. So I call that kind of like soothing over solving. It's just like hand on your heart, hand on your chest. And you're like, I'm really upset right now. That did not go the way that I want. I'm really mad. That's okay.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah. I was gonna say that's okay.
Radical self-acceptance.
Yeah, it's okay.
I want to know about your journey leaving the financial industry and going into health and wellness, and then into this position. But before we get into that, I want to make sure the Insurance Bro Show gets a little plug. 2:30 p.m. every day, Pacific Standard Time. If you're in the insurance space, you're going to want to check that out. All right. You started in the financial space and then you left. Did it have anything to do with what was going on in your life? Did you know that this is where you wanted to be and that's why you left, or what happened there?
I think for one reason or another, I've always been fascinated with ending suffering, and
money makes me suffer. It's like, I'm done. I'm over it. I don't want to deal with that stuff anymore. Those little green faces on those pieces of paper, I'm over it. I'm over it. You know what?
Ain't no thing like me except me.
I'm sure there's a little bit of that at its subconscious level. Yeah, not to be discovered until much later, though. I don't know. I've always had this like innate passion to like help. And of course, that's like a reflection in some level where I needed to be helped. And kind of like moving into the space, the more I relax, the easier it is. It's like breathing for me. It's just like I'm naturally pulled to things that help me do what I do better and give what I give more efficiently or whatever. And the hardest part had really just been coming to terms with like my life not looking like my peers, and also just the erraticness of being an entrepreneur and not having like oh, it's going to do this. And then like you have a few of those in the beginning where you're like, this year I'm going to do this. And like, it doesn't happen. Okay. No, this year I'm going to do it. And then like, it doesn't happen again. And so then I think you do your surrender move and you're like, all right, well then what are we going to do? And just really allowing it to be fluid took some practice.
Yeah, the ebbs and flows of the entrepreneur space are felt all over. We talk about on the real estate side. We always talk about people in the real estate space, and this goes for really anybody in sales. They suffer from cash spurts instead of cash flow, right? They're trying to build a business and they're trying to develop cash flow, but the reality is they're only as good as their last sale, and they're only injecting a little bit of cash just to make sure they get onto the next level. Fortunately,
he ain't lying.
right? Fortunately, what we're doing, I got James over here, who's my systems guy. We're developing systems that, trust me, I mean, he sits for hours and hours and hours on end to put some of these systems to be implemented into the business, but they free up a lot of that time. What kind of troubles when you started? I mean, you talked a little bit about early on with being an entrepreneur. How have you developed as an entrepreneur to kind of put some of these things in place to help you get to a point where you're like, okay, I can breathe now. I can stop, treading water for a second. Let me breathe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say though, like before we go further, the systems that I've experienced are beautiful. Like you guys are doing a great job. I was like blown away just at the organization and the flow and the support. Like you've really done a nice job.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm glad we're doing something.
A 10. A 10.
at least.
At least.
Yeah. So actually, a spreadsheet that I use to manage my own personal initiatives. So when I was doing, I noticed that when I read in the morning, it made a difference. I noticed when I exercised this many times, it made a difference. So I started to track my own metrics. And then when I had personal training clients, I was like, I know what you need. You need some of this. So I bring them over into the spreadsheet world. And so we would be managing what they were doing fitness-wise and nutrition-wise. But then it also was like, oh, and it seems like you're happier when you talk to your friends once a week. So let's put that on your radar. And so I ended up building out this tool over the last few years that really helps a person just nurture the things that make the biggest difference in their well-being. And again, like it's kind of like kept rolling through time and finalized as like a little simple tweak up top, but it's still a great tool just to make sure I'm moving balls all the time, because it's so easy for things to fall off your radar and like so easy to like move around. So I actually use my own tool and it works.
That is super key though. James and I are really focusing our attention on how to generate sell high ticket items online, how to generate leads online with people who have no idea who we are yet, right? And so we're really narrowing down
Business bros.
Yeah, well, the business bros, right? But we're really narrowing down who our ideal client is and what our ideal client is looking for. And the funny thing is, we've come to the same conclusion that you came to, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs end up doing that too, is a lot of who and what you do for your clients comes from what you do for yourself, right? What's successful
60% of the time it works every time.
What works for you works for a reason. And there are a lot of people, even though we are unique, right? Ain't nobody like me except me, right? But by the same token, there are a lot of people like me, right? They might not be exactly people, that have everything, to a T, but there are a lot of people who are ambitious as I am, who want to be in the same health position as I am, who probably have hair issues like I do, right? Like, boom. But either way, once I find and I really identify who I am as an entrepreneur and what are the key things that help me, and I help other people see those same solutions to the problems that they have, all of a sudden you have a winner. Plus, you're the best test dummy that we have out here. No pun intended there, right? Or guinea pig if you want to go there, right? So when you've implemented some of these things, how has that transitioned to what your business looks like? So it's helped your clients out, but how has that helped grow your business?
Yeah, actually, it's been my main marketing tool. So on Instagram, I've talked maybe like overly candidly about about,
No
like,
such thing.
Yeah, those are the vulnerabilities. We love that stuff.
100%. All about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so like I have 3 different accounts, which just helped me kind of like funnel the messaging. But one of them is just a lab, because like to me, I'm my lab. So I like experiment with things. I see if they work. I test them through some clients. If it's good, then I bring it mass, and I'm like, hey, here's a protocol you can use. And just like talking through my own process, which has developed some level of trust in a space where everyone's like trying to sell something. Like, it's pretty hard to fake yourself. Like, I mean, you can, but it doesn't come across authentically. And so honestly, that's been my best marketing tool.
I love that. I love that. And it's true, because those things that you're testing, those are the things that resonate with you. They're the things that are going to connect with you. So if they connect with you on an emotional plane, right, on an emotional level, they're going to connect with other people. What do you got in store for your future? What is it that you want to do? I know we're entrepreneurs and we're going to come across those years where I'm going to do this, and then COVID hits and we don't do those things, right? but what do you have in store for yourself? What do you think is in your future?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited so I'm calling it Hope Rehab. And my objective there is to provide hope to people who have done a bunch of things they're not proud of, who are starting really far behind the line, who just got their ass handed to them for one reason or another. And it's like, okay, when you have this big loss forefront of mind, how do you pick up every day and like reach for that heart vision? Like, you've got all these other things. And so I'm really excited. I'm working on, I have a group of volunteers right now through that protocol, and I'm attempting, this will be my first time doing a course on Teachable. So I'm hoping to funnel my findings into a format like that, where it's kind of like a self-administered, like Hope Rehab kit.
That's pretty good. I like that. The vulnerability factor that we want to share is not always easy to do. So if it's like a self-help kit where they can come in, kind of open up to themselves in a way, that's already eye-opening. I do something that I don't know if anybody else does. I don't know if James does it, or maybe you do. There's times where I'll go and in my kids' room, their closet doors are mirrors, so you can walk up and have that full-length mirror. I'll walk up right there, nose to that mirror, and I'll look deep inside my eyes. And it is sometimes scary, sometimes, enlightening, but I'm looking at myself and there's no lying. I don't have to say anything. I'm just thinking to myself. I can call myself out on BS, but it's weird how looking at yourself and realizing this is the situation you're in, this is where you want to go. You're not making it up. You're not posting it on Instagram. You're not giving anybody else any heat, but you're looking deep within your own soul.
Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
You're looking deep within your own soul, right? To kind of connect with yourself. And that's what I feel like, that what you're creating here is going to help people do, is really look deep inside themselves and be like, look, okay, I'm not perfect. Okay, I'm struggling with something, but I can do this. Right? I can do this. Before we end, I want you to let people know how they can get a hold of you. How can they can get your book? And then can you tell me, a couple mentors or authors that kind of helped guide you in the direction of, where you are today?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So if anyone wants to connect, they can find me at habitbook.com or on Instagram, Shaylee _Edwards. And then you can pretty much get to all my stuff from there. And then I've got to say, like, I've always been self-development-y, but I've got to give it to Tony Robbins. Like, he came in at like the right time and really helped me like pick myself up. And so that's been huge. I love Emmett Fox and what he talks about as far as scientific prayer, which is like a more metaphysical interpretation of Christian literature, which would have never resonated with me ever. But just some really great tips for mindfulness. And also got to give it to Abraham Hicks.
Yeah, James is a big fan of Abraham Hicks. Have you ever read anything by Brene Brown?
No. Oh, yes, I did. I read The Gift of Imperfect Parenting, which I think was a seminar or just a shorter thing she did.
Have you ever heard her live, like or like an audio of her?
I don't think so.
Oh man, so I'm like a voracious reader of books, but in audible format, right? So I listen to in 1.5 speed or sometimes two times speed. And Brene Brown she talks about vulnerability. That's her biggest, her soapbox that she talks on. But she is so freaking funny and she is so animated and she tells so many great stories. And I suggest you listen to her in 1.5 speed. They're even funnier when she when you have almost chipmunk stories. But if you really want to dig deep in trying to find your inner, who you are and have the ability and understand why sharing these things out with people is so powerful, not only to you, but to your client base, I recommend checking out some of Brene Brown's stuff. That's some great stuff.
Thank you.
Shaylee, you're a rock star, man. Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope you had fun. I mean, we made you laugh a couple times.
Yeah, no, I need you to follow me around and do the video draws.
Fine by me.
It can be done.
It can be done. All right, ladies and gents, make sure you check out Shaylee. Go to habitbook.com. Pick up a copy of her book. Follow her on Instagram. Check out all the cool content she's putting up there. And if you guys have any questions, hit us up. Thank you, James. So remember, subscribe, rate, like, follow at Business Bros Pod. And if you guys want to join the podcast, look, we got an 8-week waiting list for you guys to join the podcast. So you're welcome to go to businessbros.biz/podcast guest, but you're going to wait 8 weeks out. Or you can go to the last minute list scrolling here at the bottom of the screen, businessbros.biz/last minute. And you never know. Sometimes life happens and you have a cancellation. We'll give you a notice. Sometimes it's an hour, 15 minutes, maybe a day, sometimes a week, but you can jump the line and hop on the show. So check us out. Follow us at Business Bros Pod. Join us on the show whenever you get a chance if you're an entrepreneur. Until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend. That's all we got for you guys today. Peace.
Bye-bye.
And we're out.
Thank you for listening to the Business Bros Podcast. Are you looking to get more clients or to increase your income? Hernan, the business bro, can help you generate referrals through the power of podcasting. And James, the insurance bro with Pipeline Insurance, can help you effectively add insurance to your existing business. If you are ready to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow, email businessbros@csfirst.com to schedule a free consultation or join the Business Bros Network, www.businessbros.biz.